I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jesse. And this is the Reimagine Success Podcast. We're a husband and wife team who want to make a difference.
Keeping up with the Joneses can be exhausting, and we can often lose sight of what we are accomplishing.
We're here to reimagine success and to celebrate the steps it takes us to get there.
Big or small, we want to showcase success stories that will inspire, motivate, and help propel you towards greatness in your own life.
So come reimagine success with us, and let's go on this journey together.
Do you like extra content? Of course you do. How about brand new music? Well, I just put 2 brand new songs, Breathe and Not Alone, on our Patreon for all of our supporters. To hear these new tracks, go to patreon.com/creativeglobal and sign up now for your early preview of these brand new songs from Jesse Biondi.
This week's episode brought to you by Deadly Crimson. Crimson is an action-packed comic book series that will keep you gripping the edge of your seat. Deadly Crimson is a story about a scientist turned assassin who must choose her path and seal her destiny. Find out if she has what it takes to overcome the most criminal masterminds in the universe. Issue 2, now available on Kickstarter. To purchase or find out more, head to www.deadlycrimson.com, Instagram and Facebook at Deadly Crimson. Email crimsonisdeadly@gmail.com. Welcome back to another edition of Reimagine Success.
Hey everybody, this has been such a successful week so far for us, and I hope it has been for you as well.
Oh yes. Now every single day I want you guys just to keep bringing those habits up, changing your habits. You know, if you change one habit every single day, one negative habit, that's 365 habits that you will have changed by the end of the year, and think about where your life will be at that time.
Yep, and just like Tanner said last week in our Rags and Riches episode, you have to be consistent every single day. You have to find something to consistently do every day to push you forward towards your success, and that consistency is key to getting there. So stay consistent, do successful things, and that brings me to my next point, which is if you want to be super successful, you should probably subscribe to our Patreon.
That's right. So patreon.com/creative global. So you can head over there. We have bonus content. We have some awesome content from Deadly Crimson, and the Deadly Crimson Kickstarter is actually going on right now live. So if you haven't picked up your issue, head over to Kickstarter, look for Deadly Crimson issue 2.
And on that Patreon, I've also got 3 new songs that are not released to the public that you can access early. So jump over there, hit subscribe, get involved with the Patreon. We've got a live episode that we did a couple nights ago that we call Real Talk, where we just get a little bit deeper with you guys and talk about things that are on our hearts and on our minds and stuff that you won't hear on the podcast as much.
That's right. So head over there and check it out. And with that, we are so excited for today's guest. We are going to dive into this episode in just a minute. But first, I want to introduce him. We have Daniel McMillan. He's the author of several science fiction novels and collaborative titles in other genres. Many of his books have become Amazon top 100 bestsellers, with some of them finding their way to the top 10. He is a prolific writer and avid self-motivator. Daniel doesn't do things in small measure. He speaks multiple languages, plays several instruments, and expresses his creativity through drawing, painting, sculpture, and music. He started studying science, focusing on physics and spirituality at age 11, and was curious about the overlap in this desperate areas of study. Sci-fi is his go-to, but he isn't one to limit itself and enjoys exploring writing in multiple genres. Dan is married to Ahara, which and arguably is one of his greatest accomplishments to date. So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is
so
a pleasure.
Good to have you on.
It's so exciting to have you. Now, you are a writer. You've done so much amazing stuff. Now, we're actually looking in his office right now, and his back wall is covered with covers that he's actually created himself. So it's so excited to have you here, and I'm ready to dive into who you are and where you came from and what you're about, Daniel.
I'm about a lot of stuff, but I guess my story is that I grew up on a little farm in northern Ontario, up here in frosty Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and only had access to limited choices for entertainment. So reading became a thing very early in life. Um, a lot of comic books and a lot of novels and stuff like that. But also we had on one of our channels, it was kind of like Canada's answer to PBS.
Mhm.
But every Saturday night they would have this Saturday Night at the Movies, and they'd show back-to-back movies. And so even as a little kid, I'd tune in, check out what the movies are. Drama, boring. That's not going to watch that. But a lot of times they'd play like back-to-back science fiction movies, old classics and stuff like that. And even as a little kid, I was just sucked into that stuff. I didn't realize that it was what it was, but it just interested me.
Hmm.
Now, did you start writing stories when you were very young? Like, do you have any of those stories still available?
Unfortunately, don't have them, but I do remember, like, for example, one summer out camping with my parents at this beautiful lake, and spent the brunt of the summer inside with a notepad, rewriting what was basically Star Wars as a 12-year-old kid, right?
What? That's awesome. I love
That's
that
great.
so much. I know as a kid, I also did a lot of writing. I went to, state fair competitions for writing. And, it's just when you are a creative, I feel like it just starts at a young age and you just build it up. And I am so proud of you that that's what you have done in your life.
Yeah, well, it took a long time to come back to, though, because I mean, it's not something that seems obvious, even when it's something that you do.
Mhm.
And so I believe in trying everything, because you never know what it's going to be. That I mean, like, you could be a macrame genius, but how would you know that? Unless you grab some rope or whatever it is those people do and start tying knots. So I've tried. I've painted. I've done sculpture and music and all kinds of stuff. But you know what? And I always push things as far as I'm able to. So, like, for example, with music, I can play competently, but I'm not a musician, because I know people who are that, and I'm not that.
Just
I
curious,
paint
what do you play as a musician myself? You piqued my interest. What instruments do you do?
I play guitar and bass. I've played saxophone, and I sang. Actually, I toured with a little bar band for a couple years when I was still just a puppy, and
Puppy, I love that.
and did that whole thing, but was surrounded by some people who were musicians, and saw that I'm really lucky to be here, because I'm not like these people. Like, I don't understand music the way that they do. I copy, right?
Mhm.
And the same thing when I tried painting. I can paint competently. I've done commissioned work, sold some work, and but I know people who just sit down at a blank canvas and create, and
Mm.
that's not me. But when I circled back around to writing, um, it was just so cool that there was no more copying. I'd get this spark of an idea, like, what if there was this guy and he was to do this and he was to do that, and I just start making notes, and it goes from um, this initial idea through a process or whatever, where you come up with, like, I wrote a book. I wrote a short story. I wrote a comic script, and it all came from a place inside of me, without any external um, things having to be there to augment it.
I love that so much, because I feel that in such a strong way with
Mhm.
music. There's lots of things that I'm not good at. I'm not good at science, and I'm not good at, lots of different things. However, when it comes to music, I'm like you. I can have the blank canvas per se, you know, literally nothing. And then all of a sudden I'll get an idea for an entire song and it'll just start feeding into my head. And I'm like scrambling to get it all out of me before I lose it. And it's just is when you find that thing that clicks with you and it just comes to you, that's when you know that this is probably my calling, because it just pours out of you naturally. Yes, you have to feed it. Yes, you have to grow
work at it
and work at it and refine it. But that natural just outpouring from your heart and from your soul just comes out of you, and it clicks and it works. And that's so cool to hear that that's how that happens with your writing as well.
Yeah. I think we have an obligation to follow the things that we're led to, pursue to as far as we can. And unfortunately, a lot of people stop themselves before they even get started. And I think that's really sad because, like I said, you know, a lot of people are out there right now, sitting on top of amazing talents that they're never going to share because they're, you know, who are they to, you know, to produce a piece of art or music or to follow up on some dream that they had, you know, and they're just become okay with mediocrity when we don't have to be.
Right.
Oh man, I love this.
Fear is the biggest thing that holds us all back. You're afraid, and you're afraid to step out, and you're afraid to be judged. But the thing with everyone in this world is if you do put yourself out there and you let your work show and shine, you will also be successful. Because that is you, and that is who your true self is. And if you put your true self out there, no matter what, you might have to work at it a little bit. You might have a couple of little failures, things that don't work exactly right. But if you keep going at it, it's going to be successful because that's what's inside of you. And it's so sad to see that fear is just stopping so many people to live their dreams.
Yeah. And Melissa and I mentioned earlier, we did a little extra bonus episode on our Patreon. If you want to hear the whole thing, you'll have to go subscribe to it. But the gist of it was wishing your life away versus doing something. Like all these people, you know, that have these unbelievable talents, a lot of them sit back and say, oh man, I wish I could play music on a stage. I wish I could write a book and people read it. I wish I could paint this picture and it be hanging in someone's home. Instead of just doing these things, you know, we wish and wish and wish and we never do, and then our life passes away and all those wishes amount to nothing, and without action it's just pointless.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, going through the process and getting past the failures is part of what kind of discerns whether or not this is a thing for you, because like I've discovered writing now. I'm so fortunate to have discovered that, but I didn't come back to it until later in life when I always knew it was something that was there. But with the other things that I've done, like painting, for example, like, do you know how far a painting canvas will fly if you sidearm it and just kind of get the right spin on it? Like, it'll go for days. Like, it's amazing.
I love that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, well, Daniel, speaking of now, you have found your calling. You are doing this. What is your prominent writing style, and how did you figure that out?
Well, I primarily write science fiction now, and that comes from, you know, those early loves, a lifelong love of not only science fiction stories, but of science in general. And so when I write something, now I want to preface this by saying that a lot of people who are turned off of sci-fi think that it's going to be like reading a textbook and that it's all sciencey, and then something happens to a character and science, blah 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 blah. And it's not like that. You know, the characters that I create are important, and they have depth and feeling to them. They just happen to live in a future world or on another planet or in a spaceship or someplace like that. But it's all about the characters. The science is important to float those things on, but it's not the cornerstone of any of it. But I love science, always have, and so when I'm looking at new science and new technologies that are being developed, I always look at the implications of what those mean to us as a society, to people as individuals, and then you just kind of stretch that out a little bit and see where it goes. And sometimes, yeah, you have to take, like a principle, a new principle, say in quantum physics, and then add a little bit of voodoo physics to that to kind of sci-fi it up a little bit, to make it work for your story. But it's got its roots in something that's real. Like, for example, in my ascendancy stories, they use gates for instantaneous travel. And without getting too sciencey, the gates are created together so that they're entangled with one another, so that when they're separated, dealing with one gate means that you're also dealing with the same gate at the same time. Because of a principle in quantum physics. But then, like I said, I stretched that out to come up with something science fiction-y.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot because though I'm not good at science, I love scientific thought. We over the last year and a half have been really exploring the nature of the universe and, all the potential possibilities of what's out there and who are we as people.
I mean, honestly, like seriously, if you can imagine it, it is probably real.
Yeah. And so like,
someone.
All these grandiose ideas are so cool just to think about, even if they're completely ridiculous. So Melissa and I sit around all the time and just throw crap out and like, what if this? Well, yeah, that's kind of silly, but what if? It'd be interesting. And so like we're constantly having these little thought processes to come up with crazy ideas, and it just stretches our creativity. And I love that you're taking these cool ideas and mixing it with good story and good characters and creating a good work of art that can be digested but still make people think.
Yeah, and in terms of like, I like talking about facing adversity and coming together to overcome challenges. Like, so for example, in that Ascendancy series that I just mentioned, it's about a future society where the governments of the world have tried to come together to create a world government. And when the people rose up against that, the elite went up and sat on satellites above the Earth while they pulled an asteroid that was just going to miss the Earth in a little to bring the population down to a more manageable size. And then once that settled, they came back down and established the Ascendancy, offering comfort and protection as long as you play the game and abide by our rules. Not all people wanted that, and they stayed in the wilderness and became the Sylvans, the people of the woods. And so it's about these two factions, and then when these two factions find themselves at odds with different forces, the only way that they can overcome them is to overcome them collectively. So after generations of being taught to hate one another, ultimately their salvation lies in their unity.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, it sounds like today's world.
That's something very plausible that could happen.
It could happen right now. I mean, we joke and say, okay, a UFO is going to show up tomorrow. And, last week was, COVID, and it's just so many things have happened. So who knows? But I love it.
But that comes from a place of, there is a lot of division. There is a lot of, and overcoming that division leads to better places.
Yes.
We're one people.
Yeah.
With more in common than we have different among us. And so I try to reflect upon those things when I'm writing. But I also sometimes look at the implication of not rising to the occasion and like the results of being self-indulgent or arrogant, that type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds like you're very similar in your thought processes to us. If you listen to my music ever, it's a lot along those same themes. We're better together. We're stronger, when we can think for ourselves and take control of our lives and our relationships and to do things together and stop letting stupid, trivial stuff divide us and, letting political lines and all these literally trivial things just tear us apart as humanity. And there's a reason that they want us to do that. They want us to be separate so we can't be strong. And if we could just get past that and join together and stop being so divided, man, what could humanity become? It would just be so much better.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to throw this out here. Have you ever seen the movie A Bug's Life?
Yes.
There's this amazing scene where the leader of the grasshoppers is trying to explain to the other grasshoppers why they have to go back to Ant Island, even though they already have all the food that they need that the ants have gathered for them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that speech, the grasshopper says, if those ants realize that they outnumber us 100 to 1, our way of life is over. And that's why we have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I always kind of flash to that when I think of these divisive kind of situations, because it always is the trivial and stupid stuff that we focus on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we focus on those things while the big stuff gets past us.
Yep.
You know, the important stuff gets marginalized, and we're more focused on, you know, stories in that there's way too,
Yeah, like
we're focused
unfortunately
on
way
getting
too many
slapped.
examples.
the Oscars.
Oh yeah, that's the new one.
Yep.
My wife woke me up in the middle of the night last night. She's like, "Oh, breaking news."
You're like, I'm going back to sleep. That was not breaking news.
Yeah, it's all just distractions. Everything is a distraction
Totally.
from our
Totally.
purpose, from what we're here to do, and from the fact that we should be loving each other, taking care of each other, making this world a better place. Melissa and I always say, be decent humans, make this one happy world. Like, we can do this. We have the capability to do this, but we got to stop being distracted by the stupid stuff.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Like in my book, The Tritonus Venture, it's about a society in the near future, 2066, where the world has ushered in after these global commerce wars, which could potentially be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they've decided after these commerce wars that they're going to implement a resource-based economy. Money is finished. So this billionaire jerk decides that he has been deprived of his rightful place above the mundane populace. And he builds an island off the coast of Australia that he knows is above the crash site of a UFO. And then going down there to extract technologies from the UFO and give it to the people kind of as a Trojan horse, will subjugate them and bring himself back up to the top of the food chain. And somebody at one point mentions to him, you could have had everything without doing this. You would have still had everything you wanted. And why would you do that? And he said, honestly, I just don't care.
Dang.
That was his response.
That's such an indictment on our society, because there's so many people with that mindset. I'm going to have to read all your books now. Like, you've got
yes, you are.
I'm serious. You've got me on the edge of my seat, because like
what happened?
Yeah, this is seriously right up my alley with everything that I think about all the time and that we talk about all the time. And you are just speaking our language, and I love it.
Like Deadly Crimson, you know, she's a scientist workaholic. Has a husband, she has a daughter, and she creates a serum that is changing the world, where her boss actually uses that same serum to create a super soldier and entices her with it. And so she ends up turning into like the world's most craziest, deadliest assassin that, you know, is out there. And then she's like, wait, what did I do? You know, like, why did I do this? And that's what we do a lot of times. Yeah. Then that, I feel like sometimes that we get wrapped into something and we just keep going with it. And then we're like, what, wait, whoa, stop. What did I do? Why did I do this?
Short-term gain for long-term pain.
That is correct. That's correct.
It's that plight of the human soul, you know, good versus evil. It's always going to be there. And we always have to check ourselves, check our egos, make sure that we are, you know, being the best people we can be.
Yeah. And speaking of all of your books, I know you've talked a little bit about your books, and I'm so excited. We're going to put links and images and links to his books on our stories. But you were in the top 10 bestsellers. What was that like? And what was that like when you realized that you had hit the top 10 in some of your books?
Shocker. Huge shocker.
It always is, Right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? When you create your life from the unknown, the things that come into your life are not going to be something that you anticipated, right? So was super stoked, but I love that my books are being well received. It means that that the stories I'm telling are engaging, and that the messages that I have to share are resonating with people from all over the world. I mean, how could I be anything but super stoked and wicked grateful?
Right?
Right? I mean, it's so amazing that you come up with something out of your head, and you know, the most satisfying thing is that people like it, and they buy it, and they read it, and they comment on it, and they share it, and they like it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a creator, as a writer, as everything that we are on this podcast, anytime that we have emails or fan mail or comments or likes, it just warms our hearts. And I know Daniel is appreciative of all that, and of course we're appreciative of that as well.
Yeah, you want that feedback and being on a top 10 bestsellers list. That's the ultimate feedback for people to say, yeah, we kind of dig what you're doing.
Yeah, and I love some of the reviews that I've got. I've gotten emails from people in the most unexpected places: UK, Australia, the Middle East. Thanking me for, actually a lot of times thanking me for turning them on to a new genre, because they said that they would have never read something like this before, science fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that when they were drawn to it for whatever reason, that it opened up a new world for them. And they now see science fiction as being a viable source of entertainment. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's awesome.
Now, you've done a lot of collaborations with other people. Tell us a little bit about that. How's that gone for you? Has it gone, smoothly? Have you had struggles with collaborations? Have you started working with somebody and then said, okay, this isn't going to work? We thought we could work together, and now I'm just not feeling the vibe here. You're not feeling the vibe. You're like, how's that look for you in collaborating?
Well, I'm always careful going into a collaboration that it's something that I can get excited. And it's hugely helpful when I can see the enthusiasm of my collaborative partner. I think if that is in place, it's a good cornerstone to build on to create something together. And honestly, the only times that I've had any difficulties in collaborations have been at times where there were obstacles, like for example, I had an editor for a while who was a fantastic editor and had worked with some A-list authors like Anne Rice and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But unfortunately, he lived in the Philippines. And so I would be cut off from him through infrastructure issues. Oh, there was a typhoon. Don't hear from him for 2.5 months when I've got a book, that I need.
My goodness.
Wow.
So it was an amazing collaboration, but I had to let it go, unfortunately, because I needed someone that I could connect with much more readily.
Steady, yeah.
Yeah, but I wrote a suspense story for an anthology called Second Chapters, which was really cool. It had the theme of people getting a second kick at the can, so to speak, and what they did with those chances. And so there were 6 really disparate stories of what to do with a second opportunity, some of which were used really well, some of which were not really noticed even until they were in fully blown and realized. And it was like, oh my God, this is what I asked for. I just didn't expect it to come to me in this way, and things like that. So there were 6 really cool different takes on that theme. And so that was super interesting.
That's cool.
I've also written some, I've been writing a comic script lately, which was set in a very well-defined world with existing characters. And so I had to look at this very definitely predefined world and the characters within it and extract stories from within that and build those. And I've also done comic writing where it was an idea that was proposed around world building, and I was largely involved in helping to flesh that out and make it into something that both of us were happy with. And then the writing process began from there. So I kind of had a lot of different experiences with it, but yeah, they've all been pleasant experiences. And I think that people who want to work together will find a way to work together.
That is absolutely so true. And you write so much sci-fi. I mean, that's your main genre. And there is so much stigma against sci-fi. A lot of people look at it as something that they don't even want to watch or they're not interested in. So what elements are needed for a story to be sci-fi? And how can that open up more possibilities of what can be included in sci-fi?
Okay, science fiction generally involves, there are a few tropes that have to be hit on in order for something to be sci-fi. They either happen in the future, where things that are happening now are extrapolated into a time that we haven't arrived yet, and what could potentially happen in that time, or they deal with new technologies being developed, or they happen in space on other planets and other worlds, other dimensions, or those types of things. But those are generally the things that would define a work as being sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I love about writing science fiction is that I can write whatever I want, so long as it's set in one of those settings.
Right.
You know, so for example, my Lauren Alasia books, Lauren Alasia is this galactic vigilante who has kind of a Robin Hood morality, where she has no trouble flying in the face of the law if she figures that what she's doing is morally and ethically right. Mm-hmm. But the first book is basically a heist story, you know, and I really wanted to do a heist story. So it happens to this woman who lives in this other galaxy and has this crew of kind of ragtag aliens that are
like vigilantes.
Yeah, and so I was able to write my heist story. And then the second book in that series, they go to help a friend of hers who's a xenoarchaeologist and going around the galaxy looking at dig sites. And he uncovers this temple, and he wants to use the temple's power to help his ailing wife, but in the process unleashes this malevolent entity from within this tomb that threatens to take over all of life in the four arms of the galaxy. And time for Lauren to get to work.
Wow, that is great. I love.
So I got to write this kind of Temple of Doom adventure story, Indiana Jones thing, but it's a sci-fi story because, you know, so people are missing out if they're not reading sci-fi.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
You have to read sci-fi. Like it's the way of the future.
Yeah. But
literally,
where do you get inspired for this stuff? Because like for me, you know, when I'm writing a song, it's usually like something in my life or something that I see, you know, on TV or something that I experience out in the real world will trigger a thought or a sentence, and then it'll turn into a song. With sci-fi, it's a little bit different because, I mean, you're not seeing spaceships flying around or aliens or stuff like that. So where's your inspiration?
What, you're not?
What dimension are you in, Jesse? Do
you have a window? Open it.
Right.
Actually, I was on set the other day and I saw something crazy flying across the sky, and it literally looked like it was on fire. So, and going super fast. So I have no clue what it was.
Now, I will publicly say that I have seen UFOs before, moving very sporadically in the sky, doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I've witnessed stuff that is science fiction to most people, actual reality. But where's your inspiration come from?
Honestly, again, it's something that always surprises me. And this is a tough question to answer without sounding flippant, because I guess the answer is everywhere.
Yeah.
But I like to play this game in my head where I take two things that are seemingly unconnected and find a way to merge them. And oftentimes in doing that, a story starts to evolve. So you take some new cutting edge scientific discovery and you match that with a recently divorced, scientist working in a research facility, and then you try to figure out who's going to be the last one left alive.
I love it.
That's great.
And inspiration, it really does come from everywhere. Jesse and I sometimes will be watching TV and all of a sudden he'll get an idea for a song, or I'll get an idea for Crimson, or we'll get an idea for whatever we're working on, the podcast or questions or anything. And it's just, it really does. It comes from everywhere. I can be cooking dinner and be, I want to do this in the story.
And it doesn't even have to be like necessarily an idea. It just has to be something that triggers you. Yeah. And once you get triggered, like you can just go off in a completely different direction and the inspiration just starts flowing out. But it's that initial trigger, whatever it may be. It literally could be anything, which is so cool.
Yeah. And I think that's what, look, it's kind of circling back to what we were talking about just a while ago. I think that's where a lot of people miss out on this, because they have that initial idea. They have that flash of brilliance, but they don't act on it. And I think that immediate action, even if it's jotting down a note or doing something quickly to get those ideas down, that has to be part of the process, is some immediate action.
Yes.
But with the sci-fi thing, it's a really diverse area to write in, and it blows my mind that currently we're in a time where science fiction movies are dominating at the box office. And yet the book genre has really not followed with that. All of the big movies right now are, what was the last thing you saw Ryan Reynolds in that wasn't sci-fi?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Good point. That's a real good point.
The waiter? No. The one where he was a server.
In the 90s?
Yeah, in the 90s. It's
yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are gobbling up science fiction. The Marvel movies, all sci-fi.
Yep.
So much of the other stuff that's out there, the big Dune, the list goes on and on and on. And yet people are still, even readers, are reluctant to pick up a science fiction book thinking that it's going to be some dry, boring thing. And it's not. There's a reason these books translate well to film.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we've actually noticed lately is in our studies of different scientific ideas and extraterrestrial things and spirituality things that are a little bit deeper and a little more what people would maybe consider out there and frou-frou ideas. A lot of these ideas are finding their way into mainstream media. And I think that that's really kind of cool, because it shows me that, the people who are making these movies and writing these scripts are actually thinking about a lot deeper things, enough to incorporate those ideas into their films or into their books or their, whatever medium they're using. And that's been kind of cool. Are you doing that same thing? Like the things that you are super into and kind of nerd out about, you're incorporating into your books?
Oh, without a doubt. My
that's
wife.
Not even a question.
Next question. My wife and I are really engaged with exploring our internal worlds and the connection between consciousness and the world around us. Mm-hmm. And those things also come to play. Again, not in a preachy way, but some of my characters. Their development comes through a journey of discovery that, for example, Eve of Ascension is largely the story of an android who is kind of like a mediator between those two worlds that I talked about, the elite that live in cities and then these people who live in the forests, and the people in the forest activate this android, and she becomes like a moderator between these two worlds. But she used to live in a computer system where she felt like she was connected to everything that there was, so far as she could discern. And then when she was put into a body, she realized that this is where I end, and beyond it is everything else, and I'm disconnected. And so she's trying to discover not only how to solve the problems that are happening, but to discover her place within all that there is.
Oh man, seriously, like, I'm getting chills listening to you speak about the plots of your books because they're so exciting.
Well, I mean, of course, we live in a sci-fi house. I mean, I've written a sci-fi movie.
Yep.
Well, comic book now. But it's actually, so Daniel, Deadly Crimson actually started off as a movie, and it has progressed and made progressions, and it's a comic book series that is partly published, and it's the second issue is coming out, and then the third issue is basically already done, just got to send to the artist. But speaking on that, this is a sci-fi house, and we love everything that you are talking about, all of your books, all of your stories, your visions, everything where you're going is exactly where we're going. So it's just the best. It's the best.
Oh, thank you. Good to know I'm in the right place.
And speaking of that, where do you want your writing to go? Where is your goal of Daniel McMillan?
I really just want to engage as many people as possible with my stories and to share my ideas, because I think I've got some good ones, and so I just really want to get that out there and have people discover some of the things that have made my life exciting and adventurous, and to maybe bring some of that into their lives as well. So I guess the goal is to be writing full time, but in order to be writing full time, I need more people to be engaged with my stories so that I can, vicious circle. And so I guess I just want to have more reader engagement so that I can spend more time writing, so that I can have more reader engagement.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, do you have a day job that you do currently?
I have a day gig. Yes. I've been working in developmental services for long time now. And so I've been supporting people with intellectual disabilities through my career. And I'm currently working in the education system, supporting children with autism in early years setting.
I love that. Our daughter's on the spectrum, and I used to be an educator myself, and I've always had a heart for that. The kids with disabilities.
And you know what? Yeah, and with even if I were to achieve my writing goal tomorrow, I would never leave that world behind. I love the people that I support. I love the people that I work with too much to allow them to leave my life. But I know that I'll get there. So it's not a matter of if I get there. It's just a matter of when I get there and what that looks like.
Right.
But yeah, I will always have a place for these people in my world.
That's
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
I understand that. Melissa has to hear about my former students all the time because I still keep in touch with a lot of them.
I love it. I love the impact. Anytime that you make a difference in someone's life and they look up to you and you're their cheerleader, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, and watching those people that you had a hand in their life go on to do great things, it's just the best. It's the best.
And I'm sure that is exactly the same thing for you, that you can see, these kids grow up and just have a little bit of a better life, and you're a part of it, and you were a huge part of what they're going to be in the future.
Yeah, I love it. Now I've been to college twice, and the first time was for electronics engineering, and thank God I did not follow through on that.
My dad wanted me to be a computer engineer.
One of those kicks at the can, right?
Yeah.
A super expensive kick at the can, but there it is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, it seems like that's one of your the things that didn't go the best in life. So what are some of the failures and some of the struggles that you've had, not just in writing, but overall throughout your life?
I think that it took me, one of the things that it took me the longest to learn was to be true to myself without being as concerned about what others thought of what I was doing with my life.
Yes.
Because I mean, I've thrown my hat into the ring. I mean, when you write, you expose yourself. Like anybody who's read my work, has a pretty good impression of where I might be coming from as a human being. And so that's big. And I remember, for example, after I published my first book and I was, jackhammering a chair into the floor because I was so nervous waiting for reviews to come in. My wife took some time to think about it, and she's oh God, that woman, man, she's amazing. But she comes back to me after she had put some thought into it, and she goes, "Listen, there are 4 ways that this can go. Way number 1, people are going to read your book, and they're going to think you're a genius. Way number 2, people are going to read your book, and they're going to think the story is really good. Way number 3 is that they read your book and they think that the story's not that great. And way number 4 is that they read your book and they think you're an idiot." And so I had to come to terms with that. But you know what?
That's only a 25% chance that people think you're an idiot. That's not that bad.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take those odds. Yeah.
When you look at it that way, your wife is brilliant.
But here's the kicker, though, is that if you're being true to yourself, and I will not turn something out until I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it, me. Because my primary audience is me. Mm-hmm. And so if I write something and I'm pleased with it, it goes out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's just a matter of other people discovering it. I, you know what? Oh God, I'm tempting fate here. I haven't received a hateful review yet. All my books are rated over 4 stars. The lowest review I've ever got is a 3-star review.
Nice.
But you know what though? I realize that the day's coming. Mm-hmm. The Harry Potter series has hundreds of 1-star reviews but I mean, I see it now as a rite of passage, so I'm like, somebody come on, just, somebody hit me there and get me broken into this world of,
just wait till you're out there to the millions, and then you'll be like,
all you have to do is run an ad on Facebook and people will be more than happy to troll you.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing that's difficult, because this does take so much time and energy, is achieving balance. And again, have this wonderful, wonderful person in my life, Tahira, who is, first off, extraordinarily patient. She's like, "Honey, supper's ready." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm coming." No, I'm not.
You're writing. Sorry, I'm writing.
And stuff like that. But she's also very, now she's got her own thing going on too. And we support and encourage one another, because I also want to see her achieve her goals. I want her to grow as a person. I want her to expand her horizons and be all that she can be. But she makes it easy for me to do that because I can just give what I get.
Yes.
So
can I pause and comment on that for just a moment? Because what you were saying, I think everybody needs to hear. And Melissa and I live our lives by this.
Yes.
Because we're both creatives. We both have been in relationships with non-creatives and people who didn't necessarily support us, and our lives kind of went nowhere. I mean, we did things and then we would stop and then we would do some more things.
You would have a partner behind you nagging you. You can't do this. You can't go there. You can't do this. It's
very defeating.
Yeah. It's very defeating.
And so we put off our dreams for so long, but then we found each other And like you said, we are just each other's biggest cheerleaders. You give what you get. I never worry about running dry because she's constantly filling me. And she never worries about running dry because I'm constantly filling her. And it's the most beautiful balance when you have a partner that you can support and be supported with. And I just want to say this for all of our listeners. If you are with somebody who doesn't support you, or you are the person that's not supporting your partner, you may need to reevaluate your life, because honestly, if you can't get on board with the dreams that are in your partner's heart, then why are you with that person? And what are you doing holding them back from their greatness?
And these are not just what's in their heart. This is their soul.
Yeah.
If writing for Daniel is in him, if he does it automatically and he doesn't even have to worry about it, and it's just inside of him, then no one should stop him from doing that. Jesse's music, no one should stop him from doing that. That is that is what is inside of him. And for all of our listeners, if it's inside of you, do it. And if you don't have the support system, like Jesse said, please change your life and reach out to us. We'll help.
Otherwise, you'll just get to the end of your life and you'll be miserable and you'll be left wanting and you'll have so many regrets. You got to have support. And I love that Tahara is that for you and that you're that for her. And it just makes me so happy to see other like-minded people out there that are lifting each other up and pushing each other forward and cheering each other on. That's the way life should be. That's how you should be with your friends. That's how you should be with, the people that you claim to like. Always support the people that are in your life. We've got a friend. She was actually on this podcast, our very first guest. She's about to do her first big comedy gig because she just graduated comedy school. We're her friends. We're going. We want to be there to support her. We have so many people that are like, oh yeah, we support you. We love you. We think you're great. And then do they show up? No, they don't. Lip service is nothing. And people need to learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That speaks well to reviews too, because like I said, I do get emails from all these people and it was like, hey, glad you love the book. Please leave a review. Oh yeah, you bet. But honest to God, asking people to leave a review for a book is like, you'd think you'd ask them to do a handstand in the middle of a busy intersection while they shake their butt with a cheese grater. I swear.
Right?
Like, But I'm really lucky to have Tahara, and I'm really lucky also to have some amazing people on my team who supported me, from family and friends who have been supportive and enthusiastic about what I'm doing from the get-go, to Jessica Green, who just produced the Ark of the Hellion audiobook and did an amazing job narrating it. And she's just wonderful. I love Jessica. The guys that have beta read for me from the beginning, Mark Maxon, Luke Delaney, Gil Pitt. These guys have read everything I've done, given me feedback on it, allowed me to make it better based on what they think, and then to produce a better product before it went out. They call me on my crap, and I love them for it. My editor, my art team, and fans from across the world who've helped to make my book successful. I do write for myself primarily, but my fans run a real close second.
Well, yes. I mean, anything that we do in life is not only for ourselves, but for everyone out there, and for them to grow and learn and smile and get a little smile on your face. That's why I write Deadly Crimson. It makes me smile. And so I'm hoping it makes everyone out there smile as well. And speaking of that, this is my favorite part of our podcast, is your successes. And before we get started with your recent successes, I want to make a huge announcement on the Reimagine Success podcast. I just want to let everyone out there know that Daniel McMillan is officially part of the Deadly Crimson team.
Woo!
What? No way.
Oh, you didn't know, Daniel? Sorry to spring that on you.
we just hijacked him right now. You don't have a choice. You're now a part of Deadly Crimson.
You're officially a part of the Deadly Crimson team.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it.
But we're so excited to have you on the team.
Oh, me too.
And I know that we have so much similar vibes when I first talked to you on the phone. I was like, this is it. I got off the phone and I literally turned over to Jesse and I was like, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I'm super stoked to be part of the project. I'm really excited about getting this moving and to see where it leads to.
Oh yes,
exciting stuff.
Oh yes,
big
definitely.
things coming.
Big things coming. And we also have a new intern that we'll introduce a little bit later. She'll come on the podcast. And so I just want to let all of you guys know to thank you so much for being there for all of us. And Daniel, what other successes do you have going on in your life currently that you want to celebrate, big and small?
I just recently had my 10th publication.
Nice.
So that was a nice milestone to hit. The Ark of the Hellion audiobook, of course, was just thrilled with that. And like I said, amazing job done there. This right now, being on this podcast, things in my life are going terrific. I'm super fortunate to share my life with the best partner ever. And I'm excited every day to see what new adventure life has dreamt up for me.
That's amazing.
That's
I
so
love it.
cool.
It's so beautiful. And I am just so excited that you agreed to be a part of Deadly Crimson. And I know that together, just look out, you guys. Now Crimson is going sci-fi officially. So
Well, she's always been sci-fi.
yeah,
for
but I
sure.
mean, officially now. But I'm so excited to have you a part of the team. And I know that, there's lots of meetings coming up and lots that we're going to be doing. And
We're going to be busy.
It's going to be a busy time because issue 3 is, just get ready, Daniel. I'm going to be throwing a lot at you, just so you know.
That's okay. I can duck.
So it's so beautiful to see where your life has come and just all the things that are going to happen in the future. And where can all of our listeners find you? Social media, websites, where can they buy your books?
You can reach out to me on Facebook at Daniel McMillan Author. You can find me online at www.vector11studio.com. So that's vector, like a force moving in a direction, 11, like 2 1s, and studio, like what some people's apartments might be, I guess. and as far as my books, you can find everything. I've got this really cool link that connects you to everything I've ever written in every format it's available in. And that link is https://books2read.com. So that's books2read.com/RL/Daniel McMillan. And
Awesome.
Everything I have written, or will write in the future will always be on that link in every format so it's available.
Nice.
So you can find everything in one spot.
We'll also have all of these links in our show notes just for everyone. So you don't have a pencil or a pen right in front of you, don't worry.
Yeah, just check those show notes. And by the way, my favorite number of all numbers is 11. My birthday is 11/11. So that's a nice pick on your number there.
And Daniel, I want you to leave our listeners with something that they can be inspired on. If they have fear in their life or scared of, doing what they want to do, or writing, or anything in life that they're afraid of, what advice would you give to those listeners?
In terms of facing your fears, and I think you have to remember who ultimately you are responsible to, which is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody on their deathbed goes, "Oh, if only I'd spent more time at the office," or things like that. I think a lot of what people as they're facing the end of their life possibly regret is that they weren't as true to themselves as they could have been, that they lived their lives for other people, and that it passed them by because they didn't get to be who they were meant to be. And so, like I said, if you get an idea for something, do something right away. Grab a paper, jot it down. Grab a paper clip and a rubber band and start making it, or whatever it is. Just act, and then and if people around you maybe aren't going to be supportive, then wait until you've got something to show them where they can go, wow, how'd you do this? And that they can be impressed by what you've done. And then you can explain to them, I had this idea. Because if you share an idea with somebody, you'll either hear a whole bunch of reasons why you can't do it, or they'll poo-poo it for, like just, that's ridiculous or whatever. But do it anyway. I think it's important to follow through.
That's such great advice. So good.
Perfect. It's perfect. Daniel, well, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for being on here today. And I am so excited to get started on Deadly Crimson with you. And please, everyone, all of our listeners, reach out to Daniel, welcome him to the team, and let him know that you're very excited to read the upcoming future series of Deadly Crimson that he will be a part of. And again, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. This has been a real privilege and super exciting.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to meet you and welcoming you to the Creative Global team and everything that's moving forward. We just couldn't be more happy. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for being with us. And we will definitely catch up with you soon and see where things are going as far as progress, more successes in the very near future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I am so excited that he's going to be working with you.
Oh, yeah. Now, I can't wait to see where Deadly Crimson is going to go with his mind, his sci-fi skills, his experience. The Deadly Crimson team is just going to get bigger and bigger. And I just am so excited to bring this to life and to share this and hopefully make everyone out there just give a little smile and a little joy in their day.
It's always great when you find those like-minded people that you can partner with and just go on that journey together and really take things to the next level with. Yeah.
And I just want to say to everyone out there, thank you so much for pre-purchasing Deadly Crimson issue 2. And we're so excited that you guys are following us and that you're listening. And thank you for being here on the Reimagine Success podcast.
Yeah. And if you liked what you heard today with Dan and us, we're going to have some bonus content on our Patreon that you can hear a little bit more from this interview that didn't make it into the main interview. So make sure you get onto patreon.com/Creative Global, sign up for that, get all the bonus content, all the stuff that we're putting out there, because it really is a lot of good stuff.
Oh, yeah. And with that, this is a Creative Global Entertainment production. Did you get motivated? Do you feel inspired?
Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day. Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Follow us at Facebook and Instagram at Reimagine Success Pod. Email us at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com and let us know what your successes are.
New episodes every Thursday at reimaginesuccesspod.com.
So let's change our mindsets and reimagine success.